Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's Dealer On webinar, the ultimate toolbox for mastering local search success. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by Dealer On. And for anyone who isn't familiar with Dealer On, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, and we're best known for our awesome SEO, the absolute best customer service, and the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the brand new Chameleon responsive website platform. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we're still the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. So does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads? Well, maybe you should check us out at dealeron.com. And we have a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Eric Miltsch as our presenter today. Eric Miltsch is a successful automotive digital marketing strategist and president of Command Z Automotive Consulting, specializing in search marketing and UI/UX mobile design solutions. Eric's contributions to AuctionDirectUSA.com helped create the #1 independent used car retailer in the U.S. 3 years running, and they continue to be extremely successful today. He also helped create one of the most successful automotive professional communities at DrivingSales.com as their Director of Product Strategy. His love of cars, marketing, and technology is the perfect recipe for staying ahead of the curve, creating new solutions, and helping the automotive community as much as possible. Eric is a respected and active member of the automotive community, and he can be reached at em@ericmiltsch.com. During the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we'll respond by email to you later today. Also, don't forget a link to download a copy of this webinar recording will be emailed to you later today for your reference. And hey, share it with your friends and colleagues. We don't mind. Oh, I'm also very proud to announce that Dealer On's Executive Vice President and co-founder, Amir Amirazvani, will be presenting at the upcoming 10th Annual Automotive Digital Success Workshop on November 10th through the 12th in Lexington, Kentucky. It is going to be such an awesome workshop. If you're going to go, if you're going to be there, please, you've got to check out this wonderful speaking session on mastering the art and science of website conversion. And to find out more about this amazing conference, please visit caneautomotive.com. And guess what? Our good friends at Command Z Automotive Consultants are giving away an amazing prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a selfie stick with Bluetooth remote. Oh man, check that out. I totally want one of these. I wish I was eligible to win one of these, but I'm not. You are. All you have to do is stay tuned for details after Eric's presentation, and you could be walking away with this amazing prize today. Also, at the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to receive a short survey. So fill it out. We're always looking for quality feedback from our audience. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. So let's get started. Let's learn the ultimate toolbox for mastering local search success. Eric, how the heck are you, man?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for having me back. I appreciate it.
Oh, really, the pleasure is all mine. You knocked it out of the park the last time you were on here, and I expect you are going to do the same or even better today. This is such a great topic, especially since we're heading into the new year very soon. And I know a lot of dealerships struggle with their local search and getting it to the level that maybe some of their local competitors are at. So I think this is very, very timely, awesome subject, and I can't wait to hear more. And I know our attendees today can't wait to hear more. So why don't you start off by telling us the kinds of things we're going to be learning about today. Where do we begin?
Well, again, thank you so much for that intro. I appreciate it. And you're absolutely spot on with that. You know, this is a very popular topic, obviously. There's a lot of confusion around it. And so what my main goal for today, for everybody on the call, and again, I appreciate everybody joining in, what we're going to do is, I'm going to try to add a little bit of clarity with regards to what is going on with you know, the local search market. We want to try to increase your awareness with that. I want to be able to share some of the key items that you can obviously help to improve your local presence with what's going on within this updated ecosystem. I also want to share, in typical fashion with one of the things that I love to do, is look a little bit forward about what's coming down the road and how we can be prepared for that as well. And then on top of that, I've got some great local and mobile resources for your toolbox. And throughout the entire presentation, so once everybody gets a copy of this, they'll be able to click on the active links within all of the slides. I've got, I think we're up to about 20 links now, Ileana, all throughout the presentation of just, great resources, some tools, and so it's just some additional, information for people to really be able to wrap their head around this. And then obviously at the end, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session.
That's right. And audience, if you have a question for Eric, even if it's during the presentation, don't hold back. Send in your questions. Please put them in a form of a question. So I don't sound like an idiot when I read it. I'd appreciate that. And I'll hold on to them for the Q&A session. Also, we don't normally send out the slide deck, but if you want a copy of the slide deck, email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com and let me know, and I'll get that out to you later today. All right, Eric, thank you so much. Oh, I forgot one more thing. I'm sorry, audience. If you're going to tweet, hey, bottom left-hand corner, please tag me in it so I can see your tweets. I'd love to read what you're saying about our webinar today. Eric, please take it away. Thank you.
Sounds good. So again, in typical fashion, if anybody has seen my presentations before or heard me, I like to have a little bit of fun with it and mix things up. And one of the biggest things around this topic, and also being timely for Halloween, a major theme with this entire change that's happening, again, within the local search ecosystem, is just the mentality of thinking differently and seeing things differently. And as you know, typically people are afraid of bats, and just normally bats are scary in their normal form. But again, if you're thinking differently, like I am, and turn this picture around, they look like they're actually having a pretty awesome dance-off, and they're not as scary. Seniors look at things a little bit differently, and that's what we're going to try to do today. And again, I think I've broken my record now, Ileana. This is I use this picture in every single one of my presentations I've ever done in the industry. And I love this picture because it helps define the changes that we're constantly going through. And I've said this over and over again, mobile is not a device, mobile is a behavior. And one of the best examples that I can point to that is this simple quirky stat alone, that 75% of Americans admit to bringing their phone to the bathroom. So if we don't understand, if we don't realize that people are changing their behaviors, and the activities that they're doing are so incredibly different, we need to really understand. Hey, Leon, is that you typing in the background?
What?
Are you typing in the background?
I am, but I muted myself. Can you still hear me? My goodness.
Sorry. All right.
I will try and mute myself better. My goodness, everyone's writing very angrily at me. I'm so sorry.
So again, the theme here for everybody to really realize is, why we're so hot on focusing on the local activities is the activity that's happening alone just within the mobile segment. And this mobile segment is what's driving this change because of this behavior, because of the way that we're so connected, and because of the actions that we're taking, and obviously the intent that we have while we're on our mobile devices. So, and I've got the first resource for you, and this is just one slide of just hundreds and hundreds of incredible resources within this link at the bottom. This study that came out, this is directly from Google, and this is Think with Google, their automotive shopping study results. And you can see the in-market shoppers and their behavior in terms of with regards to their activity and increasingly looking for information on their mobile devices. And you can see how these purchasers, and this is not just all categories, this stat that we're showing here on the screen, everybody, is directly for the automotive segment. And you can see this growth just from 2011 to 2013, just in terms of the amount of people that are actually obviously looking for information. And again, I need to set this up to be able to pinpoint this behavior. So, and then we'll segue into obviously the rest of the toolkit for you. But again, I want to frame this up for you so you really, really are concentrating on this change in behavior that we're experiencing. And again, once you get the deck, please click on this link that I've included at the bottom so you can see the Think with Google Automotive Shopping Results Study. This is fascinating information, and I think something that would be extremely valuable for anybody within the dealership to share with their management staff, to share with other departments, and to share with your customers, or to share with your salespeople, so that everybody can really understand what's going on with customers today within the mobile market and especially within the automotive segment. And again, this is another old slide that I've used for a long, long time, but it's still relevant because it's dead on accurate. You know, this was put out a couple years ago with the the expectation and anticipation of what was coming with regard to the total amount of local searches just between desktop and mobile. And this number is pretty much dead on. There's 140 billion local searches, expected for this year. So again, this trend did not falter, it didn't waver at all. It's definitely on pace for where this is happening and for what's happening in the current segment. So again, I thought this was an awesome picture to be able to get somebody's attention in terms of really what's happening with the smartphone and device segment in terms of the overall usage. I can remember presenting at the Driving Sales Executive Summit 3 years ago when it was talking about 32% smartphone usage. That's doubled now, and now we're at 65%. And the amount of retailers alone that are investing in mobile activity, about 78%. And keep in mind, retailers drive these trends, and these are, we're talking about the major retailers out there. These trends are coming from. These are the people that are helping define the segment. And in terms of the overall activity, everybody has probably heard this stat before. But this year, everybody is anticipating mobile search to overtake desktop usage this year. And again, this behavior, again, is driving these trends through the major retailers. And I've got some great examples at the end to be able to illustrate this and how this is actually shaping up and exactly how and why the U.S. is moving on this, on the trajectory that it's been moving on. So let's get right into the first poll question, Ileana.
Thank you so much. All right, audience, this is your first of 3 poll questions today. We want to know, what are you currently using to manage your local directory citations? Please select one of the following answers. Is it Moz Local? Are you using Yext, Reputation.com, maybe some other provider that's out there, or none? You didn't know you were supposed to do that. Yeah, managing your local directory citations is fairly important, right, Eric?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. All right. So what are you currently using to manage your local directory citations at your dealership? Moz Local, Yext, Reputation.com, another provider, or none? Once we get a majority of those votes in, we'll close the poll and we'll share the results. Just so I know, Eric, you picked these 3 examples, Moz, Yext, and Reputation, because they're the most popular?
Yeah, they're among the most popular. They're also, they're obviously very widely used. Moz is by far the most popular.
It's the most popular in the auto industry, or just the most popular in the world?
Just in general.
Yeah.
Again, Yext is just as equally as powerful and popular as well. But again, those 3 that I named off, those are probably the most familiar that probably most of the people on the call would recognize.
Is there one you recommend?
I would recommend all of them, but I would probably lean more towards Moz, just for a little bit of the simplicity and also because of the price point. It's only $47 a year for the license for rooftop, whereas Yext is $500. But again, there's different functionalities, and there are different solutions for different size organizations.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's close this poll. We're having a lot of people write in a lot of different comments about these. So this poll question is getting some people talking over here. All right. Let's close this poll and share the results. I don't know if you're surprised by these numbers. 15% said that they're using Moz. 15% said they're using Yext. 10% said they're using Reputation.com. But the majority, 50%, said that they're using another provider entirely, and only 10% of today's audience said that they're not using any. And let me see, somebody wrote in, Tobias wrote in, actually it's $79, so thank you for that. You know what, Michael wrote in, those 3, Moz, Yext, and Reputation.com, are those, can you change your directory citations through all three of those?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. There you go. And then David wrote in, he says, Dealer Rater also has this in their back-end tool. Thank you for that. All right. So I think we got through all the comments. Do you have anything to add to this poll question, Eric?
Well, I think that's great. I figured that there would probably be quite a few. I was maybe thinking 30-35% would be other providers. And again, there are a lot of them out there, and a lot of them might just be pushed through or even white labeled through an agency as well. But again, there are, like I said, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of choices. But it really doesn't matter to me, which one we would use. It's just, I'm more concerned about the activity.
I got you. So those 10% who said that they don't have one or they didn't know they were supposed to do that, your recommendation is go sign up with one of these and start taking care of your local directory citations, correct?
Yeah, those are at least great places to start.
All right. All right. Please, Eric, let's see what else you got for us.
All right. So the first stage, what I'm going to do, I'm going to break this down into 3 top-level categories, and then we're going to get down into the granular stuff. This first stage, I would classify this as your building awareness and understanding of the activity, and this is around building your listing management. And this is your crawling stage. So when you're getting through this first step. And again, the first major theme for this is just creating consistent data across all the search engines. And I just threw up an example here. It's a little bit light just because everything was finished out on this one particular client where you can see all the different activities that you can do. And this is an example showing the Yext platform where you would be simply optimizing out your profiles all the way down to the little granular minutiae in terms of adding a logo, adding your link, adding your description, and adding the categories. All of these items are making up these specific activities within these listing platforms. And again, the theme here, everybody, is just to keep in mind a consistent data across all of the search engines, all of the directories, all of the data aggregators. That's what Google is looking for. And again, this initial phase of building the brand consistency, again, I would classify as minimal cost and a low difficulty level, because all you're simply doing is just creating a database of all of your information for all of your stores, whether it's one location all the way up to however many you may have. But again, it's just keeping a consistent approach with all the data across all of these directories. And then I put together a simple to-do list for this particular phase. And again, I've got a bunch of links within here. And again, just going right through. And this is how I would basically start out the process in terms of claiming any local listings. You want to check which ones are most popular, by your city. Moz has a great resource for that. That's where this link takes you. You want to be able to leverage your local and your regional directories. There's 2 examples that I've included there as well. And again, that theme will ring loud. I'll consistently say this till I'm blue in the face, is just making sure that you've got accurate listings across all the directories. And this NAP record, this name, address, and phone number, that's one of the biggest things that you need to focus in on. Other elements of this activity is to make sure that you've got a complete description. Typically, these are at least 250 characters or more. This is going directly within the directory that you're updating. You want to be able to add recent photos. You want to make sure that you have the correct categories. And I've got another example where I illustrate this, but just for this example, some of the typical categories that you're looking to choose would be the car dealership category. You're choosing your brand, using the used car dealer. And this is very, very important because a lot of people, when they set up the initial directory or just by default, you might have just one category listed, and you miss out on the opportunity to create the other additional signals for the other categories that are available. And then this next one is very important as well. You need to make sure that you're distributing your data to these 4 data aggregators. There's Axiom, Newstar, Factual, and Infogroup. These are what I would call, this is ground zero of the data for the internet. So these data directories and these aggregators, this is where everybody's data starts. And all the other search engines and directories, basically Google, Bing, Yahoo, all the other directories out there, they actually pay these 4 directory aggregators, they pay them to license this data, and then they pull that out. And then they scrub that against all of the other directories that are out there. So you can see how important it is that if you start off, obviously, at this ground zero within these 4 data aggregators with consistent NAP information in these directories, and then that's filtered out. If there's inconsistent names, inconsistent phone numbers, and I'll show you other examples of this inconsistency, if those inconsistencies and inaccuracies continue to show up, that creates a red flag, if you will, for the search engines, because they're trying to, again, they're looking for consistent activity throughout. And again, I've got a couple other links in here, linking directly to the listing services for those that may not be using one or maybe looking for a change. There's another resource that I've included in here for finding additional citation opportunities, because there are a ton of places that you can list your list your business. And one great resource for this is a service called Whitespark. And then most importantly, out of this entire first phase, this crawling phase, is you really need to just simply take a step back before you do any of these and determine what is your process and what is the structure going to be, basically who is going to manage this effort. Because I will tell you right now, this is not a simple, easy process. This is very, very time consuming. It's a very, very long-term process, and it's not a simple, okay, let's just go and update something, let's move on. This is a very, very detailed and structured and regimented plan that has to be laid out, and it needs to be managed literally on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis, because it takes time, obviously, to create these listings. It takes time for the data aggregators to update their records. It takes time to get duplicates removed. And again, it just, by the time you finally get an index that changes something, you might have missed something. Yeah, you might have the wrong phone number, whatever it may be. But the point is this takes a long time, and it's just planned for this to be a long-term effort. So now the next step, and I will classify this as the buy-in and participation, and this is all about creating your local pages. And again, the theme here, the basic theme, is simply optimizing your local pages. And by local pages, I mean both your off-page and your on-page elements that live within your website. And again, I would classify this as a moderate cost and just moderate difficulty level, a little bit different skill set that will be involved here. So I'll walk you through the next to-do list after we go through this poll question.
I think that's a great idea. All right, audience, your second of 3 poll questions is on the screen now. Please get involved and get me those answers. I'd really love to see what's happening at your dealership. The question before you now is, who is currently managing your local search citations for your dealership? Please select one of the following answers. Is it you have one person in-house who takes care of all that? Maybe it's choice 2, which is you have multiple people in-house that currently manage those search citations. Maybe your dealership has hired an outside agency who does it all for you. Or does somebody at your dealership work in conjunction with a partner outside of the dealership to get it all done? Or is it the last option, we're not doing it and we wish we were? So, who is currently managing your local search citations for your dealership? Once we get a majority of those votes in, we'll close the poll and we will share those results. And I love that you guys are voting. Got more votes this time than at the last poll question. So audience, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to sharing these results with you and with our famed presenter, Eric Miltsch. So when you're ready, Eric, you tell me and I'll close this poll and I will show you the awesomeness that has befallen us from this from this audience today.
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
All right, here we go. Closing and sharing. Okay.
So 48% said they have one person in-house, 9% said they have multiple people in-house, 15% of today's audience said that they use an outside agency who does it all, and 28% of today's audience said that they work with someone in conjunction who's outside of the dealership to get it all done. And I'm going to close this poll and let you take over again, Eric. I apologize for these difficulties. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. All right, so here's the next to-do list for you for this midsection that we're talking about here. So this is the actual activity, and this is the meat of the activity here. So you're going to need to go through and create individual pages for your locations. And this is something, I've got an example that I can show you in the next coming up slides. But the point is, If you have multiple locations, don't include this multiple locations on one page. You need to have locations on their own individual pages. So you need to create pages for your primary market, but if you want to try to target additional market, you need to be able to create pages for those additional areas. Now, I'll tell you from experience, even as recent as maybe a year and a half ago, it was very easy to try to optimize for multiple locations using the keyword tactics and using backlinks and things like that. However, because of the way the changes have unfolded, it is obviously very, very difficult because of the way that their updates have changed. So in order to be able to target another area outside of your primary DMA, if you are able to, at least with your brand and within the type of structure that you have in your dealership, if you are able to do that, again, the recommendation is to have a separate page for those other markets. And again, the next item here, just as equally as important, this NAP record, the name, address, and phone number info, this needs to be in the body of the page copy. Having it in the footer or even in the header, it doesn't help, and it doesn't give the strength that it needs. It needs to be within the page copy. And again, I'm talking about the full name, the address, and your local phone number. And obviously, this is a little bit of repetition for everybody, hopefully, but it needs to be included in this section. If you haven't, you need to make sure that you've not only claimed, but you've optimized your Google Plus pages with adding location-specific pictures and videos, obviously. You need to include your primary city and state in your page title tags. Again, this is a standard on-page tactic, and this is something that ties into the domain authority that I've got listed in here to be able to improve, because of the on-page elements, your page title is the #1 single most important factor that Google is looking for in terms of a technical SEO element. And again, within your category names, if you can include this, including your category names in your page descriptions, this is also a very helpful indicator for Google to be able to understand, and rather for all search engines to be able to understand the additional context and relevancy of the page that you're trying to work on. If you're able to add a local content category to your content calendar, I would strongly recommend that. And what I mean by that, within your 12-month content calendar that you're working off of, you should have some type of element in there where you're targeting locations, whether it's just addressing local content or trying to create some local outreach to your surrounding areas. These are great ways to be able to create local pages that are at least relevant to the people in those areas. And I've seen many dealerships where they'll simply create pages that include information about what's going on in the town, or activities, or even including other business listings in there. And again, just trying to create some goodwill to create some relevant content that is at least, again, relevant for the user in those areas. And again, all through all these activities are just scraping the surface, and I included a great link in here that takes you to a wonderful page that has about 50 additional tips on how to continuously improve your domain authority. And what I mean by domain authority, very quickly, these are all of your on-site technical SEO elements. These are the elements that would fall under your content calendar, how to create additional social signals, additional branding tips, and then additional tips on how you can basically leverage the social relationships that you may have, not only within the dealership, but within the relationships that you may have with the internet directors and the e-commerce managers, who are also very active with their own social activities. So again, there's 5 major categories that are within the domain authority. And then I always throw this in there as well when I'm talking to the dealers about this. You need to really ask yourself, what are you truly doing with your call tracking numbers? And every dealership probably has this. I see this over and over again. There is no local number. However, there is a tracking number, typically at the top of the page. But as we all know, those tracking numbers are creating data. And again, my question to you is, what are you truly doing with that data? I know a lot of people are forced to have those numbers in there, but again, if you don't need that tracking number on there, just get rid of it and go to a local number. It's going to help create the signal that you really want. And on top of that, again, take a good hard look at what your process is and what are the leaders and the managers doing in your organization with that data from there. If you're not using it and you're paying for it, there's an opportunity for you to cut some costs. So again, I just like to throw that in there because it's another topic that is often overlooked. I know we did it in our dealership. We had over 100 tracking numbers, and we very rarely ever truly relied on the data that it was feeding us. All right, so next, this is the last segment of the, this is basically the running category. Went from crawl, walk, run. This is the acceptance and commitment phase, and this is where you start actually leveraging all of that activity that you did from crawling and walking, and now again we're going to start running and sprinting here with a comprehensive local strategy. And now from this, you've created those pages. Now it's time to leverage those local pages and leveraging those local promotions. You need to be able to generate links to your local pages, and links, by that I mean links coming from within your site, and also trying to build some additional links that would point to these local pages. And there are some opportunities for additional local directories to be able to create some links that would point back to create the opportunity to link to some of these pages. And again, this is probably the only time that I'll ever mention links, and I'll make this statement now, and so it's out there and everybody's heard it and it's recorded for proof. But I'm basically stating that I am not doing any more link building activity for my clients. I'm basically taking a proactive stance because of the way the changes are happening within Google, because of the way that they're looking at the emphasis on mobile activity, the way that they're looking at the emphasis, obviously, on user experience. I know I can get better results with these types of activities that I'm sharing with everybody by focusing in on these on-page and these local directory and these technical aspects rather than trying to look at that. And everybody knows the classic breakdown that 30% of the weight comes from on-page, 70% is off-page. Well, that 70% off-page bucket, about 70 to 80% of that historically, that weight came from links. Well, that bucket alone now has shrunk, and from different sources that I've read and the different sources that I've been in touch with, we're all in agreement that's probably around 15 to 20, maybe 25% now. So why put more effort into a shrinking weighting factor when we know straight on that right now with what's happening with this changing environment, that these changes are putting more and more emphasis on things like the local directory optimization and the social signals, and obviously some of the technical SEO aspects of it. So again, moving on to that, we've got the opportunity to now create hyperlocal PPC promotions that can obviously point to these pages. You're going to get better conversions with a hyperlocal activity with that. And then on top of that, moving away from just trying to rely on the organic activity from the social platforms and moving into a little bit of a more of a structured plan that's going to help you create paid social programs, and in terms of creating news feed posts, because that they're going to create better click-through rates. And there's a recent change that just happened. I think it's just within the last week or so. Could be within some at the beginning of this month. But they made the change that the classic dark post now can only be created as a promoted news feed post. But again, it's by creating this structure with this type of paid post that's going to give you a much better experience. So wherever the user clicks on this content that you're promoting, they're going to be taken directly to the page rather than just simply expanding a picture and then hoping somebody clicks on the link that's within the description, because we know that just doesn't happen. And then another major factor that I think is being overlooked is the ability to add geofencing programs to your marketing mix as well. Because we went through at the beginning, we talked about the change in the mobile behavior, the amount of people that are looking at this. And one of the best solutions that I've seen right now is what Ben Anderson has going on over at Automotion TV. Take a look at this link as well and check out some of their geolocation programs that they've got. This is a wonderful, wonderful way to be able to set up these geo-targeted programs at minimal cost and be able to get some great data and be able to create some wonderful hyperlocation targeting with that. And then on top of that,
getting people who are writing in who don't really know what geofencing is, could you give us a definition?
Absolutely. So you've got, let's say, you've got your dealership, and let's say within a 10-mile radius circle around your dealership, if anybody were to basically break this fence and they're now within this barrier that you would set up, they would then receive a targeted message. And again, you can target this on the type of user that you want to get, or you want to get a certain segment. You want to be able to just push out specific content. And again, it could be a sales message, it could be a service message, it could be a trade-in message, whatever you want to be able to create. But the point is to be able to create relevant information when somebody does break this plane. And the opportunity is just to be able to push this information, again, on a little bit more targeted basis. So that's what geofencing is, and it's just in a quick nutshell. But again, if you check out automotiontv.com, you'll be able to get a great overview of what their services are. And again, there are many out there. This is just one that I happen to like. They do, they have a quality product, and again, I think it's worth noting here. And again, the next item there that I've shared, Facebook has rolled this out within, I believe, just within the last week or so. Their hyperlocation targeting, I believe you can get within, I believe you can even get as close to within 1 mile of a location. So you can get super, super targeted on this. And again, it's just another way to be able to target local people that are in the area. And again, we know that they're on their phones. We know that they're on Facebook. And again, if you can get the right targeting and you can get the right settings in there, and you can target the right people, you have the opportunity, especially, and again, I'm not saying focus solely on just sales from a vehicle standpoint, but if you're looking at what converts the most within the automotive segment, we're talking about content related to obviously service and parts with coupons and discounts and unpublished savings. Anytime you can share those types of things to people that are in market, that's a wonderful thing for them. And again, the next item here, really just creating the awareness around your marketing messages that truly need to focus on this local and mobile promotional awareness. Again, just taking a look at, you have to really understand who is your local customer, what is their activity, and what type of local and mobile promotions can you be able to push out to them. I would also recommend everybody to rebalance this paid budget quarterly for different local promotions that you may have going on, whether it was truck month that just passed us. Over the summer we had massive tire promotions that went on. And again, just taking a look at what the different possible intent is, whether it's seasonal promotions, for the summer versus the winter. And again, just taking a look at how can you rebalance that to make that effective. And again, this is also a long-term outlook, but the goal should be here to outlook, your outlook should be long-term to be able to monitor, and ultimately the goal should be to lower your total average cost of lead between your paid and your organic activities. And if you're doing this, and especially adding in that newer element with the paid social, you should start to see over time, based on your targeting and based on the intent and the content that you're using, you should start to see this average cost of leads start to trickle down. And again, one of the major elements that I'll get into in the next slide, coming up slides, is, and this is something that was just released, I believe, yesterday from Google. This is a new app that will allow you to actually read and respond to your Google reviews right on your smartphone. And this is, again, this link will take you directly to the Google blog, and it has all the information for you to be able to obviously access this app and be able to download it. But to be able to have access to this information in real time, and that's another major theme with local, is this real-time type of indicator, to be able to get these notifications on your mobile phone and to be able to respond to them, because as you'll see, I'm going to mention the top ranking factors, reviews are obviously one of them. And to be able to have better interaction and engagement with these reviews is a much better thing for your business and your brand, obviously. All right, I think this should be the last poll question. Is that correct, Eliana?
Yes, sir, it is, and I'm going to just cross my fingers and hope I got all the ghosts out of my computer, so let's launch this one and see how it goes. All right, audience, your last poll question of today. Do you have a 12-month content calendar in place right now at your dealership? Please select one of the following answers. Is it yes, we create at least 4 new articles per month? Yes, but we still need a lot of help. Yes, we use an outside content creator. Not really, or kind of, it's not consistent, we're kind of winging it. Or the last answer is, no, we don't have that. We're lame. We want to know, do you currently have a 12-month content calendar in place at your dealership? Yes, we do all kinds of stuff. Yes, but we still need a lot of help. Yes, we have somebody else who helps us with it. Not really, it's not consistent, we're winging it, or no, we didn't even know we needed to do that. When we get a majority of those votes in, we're going to close this poll and share the results. And Eric, I'm just going to give you a heads up. This audience has so many great questions for you for the Q&A session. It's dizzying. So we also had one complaint that came in. Surprisingly, it wasn't about me and my typing and my audio problems. But David wrote in that he has a big problem with you, Eric. He wants to stay on this webinar, but Eric is giving me so many great ideas. If I don't do this stuff right now, I'm going to forget to do them. So it's a good problem to have, David. Thank you so much for that comment. I just want to throw that out there. But no, you must stay on, David, because Eric has even more great information to share.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten to this yet, David.
All right, let's close this poll and share the results with everyone. All right, let's go in order. 18% of today's audience said, yes, we create at least 4 new articles per month.
Very nice.
5% of today's audience said, yes, but they admit they still need a lot of help with their content calendar creation. 10% says, yes, they have an outside vendor that helps them with their content. 44%, so the majority of today's audience, 44% said, not really, it's not consistent, we're kind of winging it. And 23% admit, no, they don't have a 12-month content calendar in place and that they're kind of lame. So if you add those up, that's 67%. That is definitely a majority of today's audience who are not doing very well with their content calendar. Yeah. Eric, do you have a comment on that? Is there something?
That one is pretty much spot on in terms of what I was anticipating. While I'd like to think everybody had a plan and had a calendar. And please, anybody that's on the call, if you want to email me, I will share with you or one of the content calendars that I have created. But I think this is a great way to get started with the mindset and mentality that your dealership needs to have. And to steal a great line from Gary Vaynerchuk, the moment that you start thinking your business is a media company, that's the moment your mentality and your success will start going on a different trajectory. Because you guys need to start creating content on a consistent basis. Universal content, blog posts, new pages, local pages, pictures, videos, whatever. It just needs to be a part of the business. And this goes along the line of a completely bigger discussion just in terms of how today's dealership structure just needs to adapt to today's marketing structure. And if you don't, you're just going to consistently spin the wheels, and it's not going to, you're not going to be on the right track, obviously. So those are good numbers.
Thank you so much. Thank you, audience, too, for participating in our poll question.
All right, let's move on then. So what I'm going to do, and if you're like me and you're a terrible cook and you need a good recipe to make a great dish, what I'm going to do is give you the recipe, basically, of what I would consider the top 9.5 local ranking factors. And the bonus one is the 0.5, and you'll see that at the end. So this is basically me in the kitchen when I'm trying to make something, and if I don't have a recipe, obviously, I'm going to screw it all up. So what I'm going to give you, like I said, is this recipe that Google has basically shared with us. And these are the top factors that you need to understand. And this is so simple that Google's giving us, they're giving us the roadmap. And if you don't follow it, that's your own fault. So it's very simple. I'm going to lay this out for you. So ranking factor number 1, the proximity of the address to the user. That's your address to where the user is. And this is significant to understand because this is one of those factors, everybody, that we don't have control over. And this is something that Google is working on. And you may have heard of a recent update called Pigeon that basically addressed this. And what they're working on is a way to remove, or not necessarily remove altogether, but lessen the weighting factor for some of these elements that we can't control. And again, it's important to understand this because there are two of these in here you'll see that we have no control over. But this is just one of the elements of the algorithm currently. And again, you'll see how this starts to play out as more and more changes and updates to this algorithm will wind up being rolled out. So the next one is, and I mentioned this before, it's your page titles, but it's also the factor that you have city and state mentioned in your page titles. Now what I've done here is I've shown an actual result from the last, this is just from this week. I just searched for Philadelphia used car dealer. This was the top 3 that I came up. And the one that I want everybody to focus in on is the one that's in the middle, Front Street Auto Sales. Now, what's happening here, and this is a significant development, and I want to be able to make sure that this comes across as clear as possible. This red description down at the bottom here, used car dealer Philadelphia, PA, used car dealership Philadelphia, PA, Front Street Auto Sales. That's what they had listed on their page title. Well, what's happening now is Google is seeing page titles like this, and they're recognizing, well, we know what car dealer and car dealership, that's the same thing. Google is actually rewriting this title for them, and you can see what the end result is, the Front Street Auto Sales, used car dealer Philadelphia, PA. So basically, Google has already done the work for this dealership, and they've said, no, this is your title, you did it wrong. So everybody should really, really take note of this. Take a look at what you have for your page titles, and if you're still trying to use a tactic like this, and I've made this change, and like I said, I admit, I was doing this all the way up to maybe about 6 months ago, and I made a complete change, and I started rewriting my titles so that Google didn't have to rewrite them for me. And what I noticed, I was getting better results when Google didn't have to rewrite them. And not only was I getting better results in the organic, I was getting better results in the local map pack, that, up in the top portion where you see the local results. So again, take note of that. If you're rewriting them wrong and you're trying to throw in extra keyword phrases, Google doesn't like that, and they will rewrite them for you. And they're going to rewrite them for you, giving preference to the brand, which is also a major element of this. Okay. So again, page city, making sure that you have your city and state in the page title. And one other note to this, you can see that we've got used car and used car. We've got used car twice, and we've got Philadelphia, PA twice. Google is basically saying you only need it once. So if you have repeated keyword phrases, take them out and just use it once, because the second instance doesn't really matter at all. So the next one, again, this is another one of those elements, the proximity to the center of the city that Google has mapped out. So your address to the center of that city. Well, again, we have no control over this. This is one of those elements of Pigeon that they are speculating that Google is starting to lower the weighting factor for this, so it doesn't actually have to be, they don't have to rely on just the data alone to be able to strike up the best result. But again, the difference here and the reason why Google is making this change is important to note, and I just wanted to add that. The reason why they're making that change, because if you think about what is Google trying to do every single day, they're trying to give you the best results. And if the best results that they can give are based solely on a data point from a proximity indicator to the centroid of the city, then they may not be giving you the best results, because that result that shows up number one based on the proximity, they may have bad rankings, or they may have a bad rating or bad reviews. And again, Google wants to create the best experience possible. So again, while this is still part of it, it's at least important to know, but it's also important to realize that these types of items are at least changing. Now, this is where we get into the really, really good stuff. And again, one of the other ranking factors is, like I said before, you need to have this in there. It's the local phone number on your location page. This is an example of a dealership that has this done perfectly. They've got the location in the body of the copy. They've got the phone number in there. That's their local number. Now there's actually one other instance. They do actually include a tracking number in the body of the copy. We'll probably wind up changing that as well, just to create as much consistency as possible. This next one, again, we've mentioned this in the crawl, walk, and run phase, but you need to be able to add the quality validated local citations. This is a ranking factor. And again, these are two examples. of some of the resources that you can get from some of these local platforms. This example that I'm sharing right here are two different examples from moz.com/local, where they will actually provide the top citation sources for car dealers, and you can see the different listing sources on there. So to be able to have a listing, if it's possible, within these types of categories as well, is also another strong signal. Now let's say you had a separate location for a body repair or an auto repair shop. There's another list there to be able to make sure that you've got a listing for the proper categories within these directories. And again, these are the type of resources that you can get within these listing platforms. And again, it's just making it aware that these types of validated local citations are in fact a ranking factor as per the requirements from Google. Again, I had mentioned before, and here's two great examples of the accurate and consistent NAP record, your name, address, and phone number records. This is something that I see quite often. So let's say I was doing a scan for my dealership. We've got Miltsch Motors Co. at 123 North Awesome Street, and the address, and then there's a tracking number. And then you can move on to the next directory, and you see that it's listed as Miltsch Motors Inc., and it's got North spelled out, and this one has a local phone number. And now Google seeing these two different NAP records within two different directories, it's inconsistent, and that obviously draws a red flag to them. Not a major red flag, but again, it builds up, and it doesn't allow them to create the local authority that they're looking to get, because again, it all comes down to the consistency. This next one, another ranking factor, this is the correct categories. Again, this is another example from I believe this was from Moz as well, and this is an example of how you can choose the 5 categories. So this is one dealer that had them in there. They actually had 3. We added 2 more in. We're going to have to actually rearrange these, because you should have in there, as you can see on the description, to add them in the order of importance. And while we have car dealer in there, in my opinion, I believe it's more important to have Lincoln Mercury dealer or Ford dealer in there as the top categories, because Google has an affinity towards the brand. And if you can tie your entity to the brand, that's another strong signal. And then obviously using the other 5, the rest of the categories in there to fill out all 5 choices, that's a solid activity. Now the next one, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this, but I wanted to at least add, again, a little bit more clarity to this. I included the link before to the resource to how you can actually improve your domain authority, but I just wanted to point out that, again, the fact that domain authority itself is a ranking factor for local. And again, if you want to check your local, your domain authority, just simply go to the Moz Open Site Explorer. You got the link that's embedded within here, and you can put in your URL. This is my old dealership. We actually used to be a little bit higher than this. This is a decent score. I used to always compare myself to CarMax. I think CarMax has about a 65 domain authority score. So the ability to be able to continuously work on those items that I mentioned before, between your on-site, your content, social, the branding, and the relationship type of activities, those are all going to help increase this number over time. And again, it's not a quick fix. It's not like you're going to do one thing one day and your number is going to go from 10 to 50. It is going to take time, but this is at least the resources you can use to be able to check your domain authority. The next one, major factor of this, as I said before, it's just simply having reviews, and you want to have a lot of them, and you want to have a lot of good ones. So being able to promote and have a process for your customers to be able to leave you reviews, especially on Google+. You obviously need to have this as part of the process. And before you can even start on this, as I had included in the to-do list in the beginning, you need to have this page set up properly, and you need to have the rest of the on-page signals for this directory listing to be accurate and consistent. And I've got the link included here for Google My Business, or you can just Google My Business, and that will get you right to the resource needed to be able to help you organize all of your information between your Google+ page, your maps, and your review pages. And that's a must-have, obviously. Now this one, I'm excited to be able to share this one. This resource actually just came out. This is your point 5. This is your bonus item there, Liliana. This item here was just released, I think, yesterday. I added this in last minute.
Nice.
And
I like
everything that we just talked about with regards to mobile activity, everybody knows Google has a very, very solid mobile first philosophy. In fact, it's actually one step above that, and it's actually experience first, because that's all Google wants. They want a solid experience, and they want you to find the things that you're looking for. They want to deliver the things that you're looking for based on your intent. They want to understand the questions that you're asking, and they want to be able to create the best possible experience. Well, it's our job to be able to monitor the properties and the identities that we have to be able to ensure that we are actually delivering the best possible experience. And that means obviously having a mobile site that is not only a mobile site, but it actually works well. And this is a brand new tool. I've got the link in here. It's called the Mobile Usability Report within Google Webmaster Tools. And you can either Google that or just wait to get this link, and you will have this in all of your Webmaster Tools. And again, hopefully everybody has their Webmaster Tools verified within their website. If you don't, call your website vendor today and get it activated. But once you have this in there and you click on the Mobile Usability Report, you will see these 5 items that will be indicated within the report. And they'll show you, you can see this red line here. We've got 139 pages with errors within this dealership's website, mobile website. And again, we're talking all about mobile usability. And basically what the talk is and what the whisper is that mobile usability will in fact ultimately at one point become a local ranking factor. And my thought is, again, trying to look forward to what's coming, be prepared, be proactive, look at this report within your Google Webmaster Tools and look at the items that you have on there. Items like your viewport not configured. That means the actual screen size that your site is being pushed to, the actual dimensions haven't been configured properly. You might have elements that are too close that create kind of like a fat finger situation. Your font size might be too small. So in this case, this is crazy. We still actually have 3 elements of Flash that are being pushed through to the mobile site. So Google doesn't like Flash. We know that, especially on a mobile site. And again, just the content itself is not even sized to the viewport. So you can see there's a lot of work that needs to be done within this one dealership website on their mobile side. And these are things that we obviously need to together and collectively as a community to be able to understand that, yes, these things are happening, and we need to hold our vendors accountable as well to be able to help and work with them. And believe me, all the vendors know that this stuff is happening, and now it's just a matter of working in conjunction with this. But the better you guys are prepared and the better you guys are you're more aware of these items, the more proactive you can be with these types of things to be able to be prepared, obviously, for what's coming. And with that, I want to just share 3 items that I've seen that I'm really, really excited about that I know are coming down the road. And I talked about some of these things in my presentation, Driving Sales Executive Summit last month, or earlier this month, rather. And this is getting down. You heard me mention geofencing. You heard me mention the hyperlocal. Well, it's going to get even closer. We were talking about targeting people within 10 miles, 5 miles, 1 mile. These beacons, these little yellow and blue and pink things that you see, I had examples of these in my presentation. These are little things that you can literally stick on the wall, and they can send a hyperlocal signal through a low-frequency Bluetooth signal to your phone to be able to push specific messages literally within feet of somebody walking by the signal. So imagine somebody walking through the dealership and getting a tailored message about the car that they're just walked in front of, and then instantly it displays on not only on their phone, but you can program this to be able to push to a large screen TV. Now it's something like out of a Tom Cruise movie where you're getting targeted information right there in real time within feet of the product. So this is something just to keep an eye on. And all the new iPhones have this iBeacon technology already built into it. So this is going to be really, really fun to watch develop. The next item that I see is really changing this concept of consumer transactional activities. We're going to start to move away from just more and more plain vanilla content being shared to the mobile commerce and the social commerce activity, actually helping us create these transactional activities on our mobile phone. And one of the best examples that I can share with us is our good friend Jerry Tebow over at Phone Ninjas. he's actually working on a new project within Phone Ninjas that will allow to actually create a more of a transactional activity through a mobile device while you're calling into the customer or while the customer is calling into the dealership. Again, I can't really share too much more than that, but these are the types of things that are coming that we're going to start to see. And I think this also, it's important to know, and I get so excited when I think about the opportunities for this, because again, rather than just us, doing what dealers have been doing in the past, where we're just sharing content for an exercise in futility and not getting really any ROI on it, and not being able to really say, well, what's the purpose behind this? But now, with the opportunity for us to be able to create better content that is centered around this transactional mobile commerce type of mentality, so that the customer can actually transact and possibly even leave a deposit, directly through their phone through these types of widgets and apps and type of technology like that. But again, I believe that's coming from a local standpoint as well. And then the last part, one of the things I'm most excited about, is just how all this data that we've been talking about, how we're creating at the local data aggregator level and the directory level, all this is setting up Google to do is to be able to create better local data discovery, and it's going to be obviously being able to push this through more devices. And by more devices, I mean something obviously like a smartwatch. This is a great example of a really good-looking Moto 360 smartwatch. It just came out, and obviously the ability for that local data discovery to be able to hit us in real time. That's the type of thing. Oh, one other note I did want to mention, Eliana, on that last slide, I talked about the consumer transactional activities. I said I mentioned this before. Taco Bell, if anyone didn't see this week, they just released the ability to now order your fast food through their app. And it's been put to the test, it's been put to the paces. People are ordering tacos like crazy through this thing, and they're shifting a lot of their social activities to this consumer transactional activity concept that I mentioned. And again, I said it earlier on as well, these big retailers are the ones that are going to set these trends, and this stuff is already starting to be put in place. So keep your eye on that type of stuff.
Wow.
So there's your takeaways. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. I hope everybody got at least something out of that they can take away from today. But to sum it up, you've got to obviously claim your primary citation sources. I gave you some great resources to do that. Make sure your listings are accurate. You saw some examples within there in terms of your NAP record, your name, address, and phone number. Leverage the current hyper-local solutions. I've mentioned a geolocation segment opportunity. Facebook's got their new hyper-local. And again, clean up your on-page SEO elements. This on-page stuff is going to tell Google more and more about what the relevancy and what the context is of each individual page. And that includes, obviously, your NAP info. And then lastly, get a jump on tracking your mobile usability health with that new tool that I shared with you, Google Webmaster Tools. And that is everything.
I'm going to say it because I'm the only other person on here who can talk. That was a wow webinar. That was really, really brilliant. And you just laid out a whole bunch of information for all of us. That was a lot of knowledge. Eric, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. And I know I'm getting a lot of great feedback from the audience right now, and a ton of amazing questions. So I hope you're ready for it, Eric. Okay, before we get to the questions, though, so Eric, take a breather, have something to drink. We're going to get to this marathon of questions that I have coming in. But we have some business to take care of. It's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that our good friends at Command Z Automotive Consultants are giving away a really great prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a selfie stick with Bluetooth remote. Eric, you got to put that to the next slide so they can check it out. It is really cool. Every time I see one of these, no, that's the prize slide. Where's the prize slide? Every time I see one of these Bluetooth selfie sticks, they are so cool. I got to have one. Anyway, all you have to do is answer a simple question about today's presentation. So get ready, get to your keyboards. First one to write in the correct response is going to be walking away with this really awesome prize today. Good luck, everyone. Of course, vendors, we would ask that you please sit this one out. This prize is only for dealership personnel. All right, here we go. Good luck, everyone. It's not an easy question, so I hope you guys are paying attention.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not a lay down. But this is a really cool prize. I hope we get a lot of answers for this. Okay. Name 2 out of the 3 of the most important user signals that contribute to search ranking factors. You just have to name 2 out of the 3. 2 out of the 3 of the most important user signals that contribute to search ranking factors. Eric, this might have been too tough. I do not have a correct response yet. I do not have a correct response yet. Ooh, is that it? No, that's not it. No, and no one's getting this right. Ooh. 2 out of the 3 of the most important user signals that contribute to search ranking factors. Eric, we're going to have to come up with another question. No one is getting this right. Not even close.
Just one of them.
They're not even coming up with one. How's that? And I don't mind if you guys already put something in. Hey, I don't mind if you guess again. I have no problem with that. But no one's coming up with even one. So it wasn't too hard for this. I told you to come up with a tough question, but that was a really hard question.
Just so everybody knows, Eliana did say, make it tough. Make it tough. And
I did. I usually tell my presenters, I don't want to lay down question. Okay, so since no one got, I'm trying to see if anyone even got one right. No one got any of them right.
Now keep in mind, everybody, here's a quick hint. These are user signals. So these are measurements that we are already measuring typically within Google Analytics of what the user does on the site.
Yes, let's see if that hint helps. Nope. Okay. Oh. Hey, we have a winner. Somebody got one. All right, here we go. We got 2. There we go. Mary Lynch, you are my winner, my friend. Mary Lynch was the first one to come up with 2 out of the 3. Congratulations, Mary Lynch. She answered bounce rate and time on site. Congratulations, Mary Lynch. I am writing your name down. You are our winner today. You've won yourself a selfie stick and a Bluetooth remote. Yes.
Just for everybody's information, the number 1 factor is click-through rate. And that's why it is so important, and that's why I wanted to tie this question in, everybody. It's so important to understand that the pages that you're creating are not only effective with regard to relevancy and context, but they're also very, very strong with their usability, and in terms of strong headlines, strong content, call to actions, primary call to actions, links, button, form, and again, if you have what we would typically call a dead-end page with pasted-in content, there's nothing to do on that page. Someone's going to bounce on that, and those factors weigh heavily. And those are what we would call user signals, and those are things that Google is watching very, very closely.
Mary, congratulations. Please write on in. Let me know what dealership you're from and your mailing address so we can get this prize out to you. It's going to come directly from our friends over at Command Z. And you won this is a tough one prize, Mary, so congratulations. Of course, we want to thank all of our audience members for playing along. I hope you had fun. And, Mary is from Garber Automotive in Saginaw, Michigan. So thank you so much. That's great. Congratulations, Mary, and she's excited to get her prize. And, of course, we want to also thank our great friends at Command Z Automotive Consultants for their incredible generosity. All right, if you're ready for some questions, are you ready for some questions, Eric?
Sure am.
All right, good. And I want everyone to know, if you have been coming to my shows a lot, then you know I have never actually turned on my webcam ever. So
did you turn yours on?
No, I didn't. Mine's not working. I'm having problems over here with my computer, so mine's not working. But if you could turn yours on, Eric, that would be great. I know, likely story, right? I was totally going to turn my webcam on today, fellas. I just want you all to know. I had it all worked out, but it did not happen today. So, and I love your costume. It's very festive.
Put the costume on for everybody.
I know I had a costume and everything. I was going to come on in a costume and everything. But now we know.
The king for today.
King of the webinar.
Yeah.
King of the entire web right now is on King Eric Miltsch. No, it's not the Burger King guy, Larry. Well, for all of you who can't see this, if you're listening to the recording and you can't see the live feed, I want you to know what you're missing is Eric Miltsch in full regal outfit, king. He's got a crown and he's got the ermine and it's very, very nice, actually. It's pretty sweet. All right. All right, Eric, put it on the next slide if you wouldn't mind so they can see what you look like in your normal, everyday, alter ego life. There you go. All right, here we go. First question comes to you actually from Larry, who just made fun of you and said you look like a Burger King. He says, regarding the NAP record, what if you have multiple phone tracking numbers? Do you list all of them? That's an excellent question. Actually, he's not the only one who asked that. Rob also asked that question. He says, how much do different phone numbers hurt you and your NAP? I use several different tracking numbers to see the effectiveness. Eric, what is your recommendation for somebody who has all these, you know?
Yeah, that's fine. Where it's hurting you guys is when you're not putting them in the directory listings that you're claiming. So you might see that when you do an initial scan of, say, like a Moz or Yet, it'll give you an initial report, and then you'll see multiple phone numbers that will show up. Some of them are being pulled from, you know, whoever, you know, listed it originally, or just an automatic listing that came about, and typically it will include those. So it's just a matter of, you know, changing out and putting the local number in. But on your website, on your web page, again, you can still have that there, but you need to be able to at least identify that as toll-free and identify, obviously, the local number with the local area code in there as well, and making sure that that's in the body of the page that you're working on. So it really doesn't matter how many extra you know, numbers that you have, just as long as the info on the website and your directories are consistent and they match.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for the great question, Larry and Rob. We really appreciate it. All right. Next question. Oh, this is a really good question, too. Ray wrote in, how do you get rid of duplicate listings? It's not the first time I've heard this. There are many businesses out there who have like an old listing, maybe something was different about it, and then some employee came in and put their listing up again, and it's slightly different, but you can't get rid of the one. Do you have any words of advice?
Yeah, within, you know, like I'll give you one example, specifically within in Moz, you'll be able to identify those duplicates, and you'll be able to put a request in through that. And then once you do, some directories may ask you to claim that and verify that you're the owner. Sometimes, again, depending on the listing type and, you know, which directory it is, it'll just let you request, hey, this is a duplicate, and kind of like they're just relying on the community activity to be able to help clean up, you know, the listings. And then once you make that email request, you'll typically, sometimes you might get an email confirmation back saying your request has been placed. Another one may say, you know, your request has been placed, click here to verify. Sometimes it may just go through and you don't get anything but a verification that's saying, okay, your duplicate listing with an identification number has been deleted. And then sometimes after it's been deleted, it may take anywhere from 30 to 60 days for the indexes to pick up on that fact. And then I've also seen it where some, you know, again, depending on which directory, you know, maybe if it's a larger one like Foursquare or even Yelp or HotFrog or YP, sometimes those go through a little bit quicker, and you may see those duplicate listings, you may see those blown out even faster. But the point is, those platforms will allow you to make an official request to get rid of them.
Great. Ray, I hope that helps you out. Oh, he wrote in. Perfect. Thanks. All right. Good luck with that, Ray. All right. Next question comes to you from David. And he says, when updating your local search stuff, should you use a local number? Our OEM sites use a 1-800 number, which isn't the same as on our main sites. Also, the city we're located in is Mount Pleasant. As you can imagine, there are many ways to write Mount. You can put it as M-O-U-N-T, M, you know, capital M, little t with period, capital M, little t with no period, capital M, capital T with a period, capital M, capital T with no period. Oh my goodness. Many people search different ways. Which is best? Is Google smart enough to know the difference, Eric?
Yeah, they are actually, but I think in this regard, since we're talking about a location, whatever would be listed in the phone book, that's a great way to see what the standard, most commonly used type of listing convention would be, and then just stick with that. But the point is too, beyond that, guys, is once you've chosen it, make it consistent across the board. It's not necessarily as important for something like amount. What we're talking about, where the consistency really winds up screwing things up, is with the name of the business. That's often where you see, like the example I shared, where it's an Inc. or an LLC or a Co. or even a .com in the name. Especially if there's, and this happens quite a bit, and a lot of people on the call might have experienced this too, where your dealership maybe changed names. Maybe you were bought out, or you merged, or just ownership changed, and there still is an old listing of a similar name or something like that. So those are often items to consider and to make sure that you clean up too. But again, it just simply comes down to whatever your legal business name is, that's the one that you need to be consistent with. And then with regards to the address type of listing, like amount, just pick one and make sure it's consistent across the board. But if you want even more information, take a look at your Google Analytics and see if you can see any data in there, or even in your Webmaster Tools, and see if there is any type of searches for amount and in different variations. If somebody is spelling it directly out, or if they're abbreviating it, that might glean some insight for you too.
Interesting. And David already wrote in. He says, I didn't think of any of that. Great answer. So thank you so much for that. Great question, David. We have a couple more questions from him coming up. All right. Next question comes to you from Michael. I don't know if it's a question so much. It's more of a statement. He says, if GMs knew this stuff, I'm guessing everything that you were talking about today, they would have done it yesterday. Unfortunately, most GMs do not know about directory citations, and that's unfortunate. Eric, if you are a person who works at a dealership and you're pretty sure that your GM doesn't know about directory citations, would there be something that you would say to them to get them to care more about it? Or is that something you don't need GMs to know?
No, I absolutely believe it. That's a great question, and it's probably the biggest hurdle that everybody's experiencing right now when we're talking about this. But I think the best way, and this is exactly how I did this when I was in my dealership as part of the corporate team with Auction Direct, I simply started off by looking at the facts. Obviously, managers and owners and people like that, they're in that position because they look at the facts and they like to make decisions. Hopefully they make the right decision. So make it easy for them and give them the facts. And the facts are very simple in this, and you can share with them that list of top 9.5 ranking factors that I just shared with you on the webinar, and I would put it like this, in very, very simple terms. This is what Google is looking for. If we're not giving giving Google these items, and we're not satisfying these requirements, we're doing our business a disservice. So we need to follow the rules that Google has put forth, and that's going to help us. And we have those items listed out very, very simple for you. Your page and your title, your page titles, your NAP record consistency, your reviews. The biggest thing I talk about all the time, just to start, is everybody knows you need to get reviews for your dealership. It helps with the user experience. Customers are looking at it. Well, go to the next level, the last mile of that. It's something that Google wants to see. So if Google is saying they want it, then give it to them, just as the rest of these items on the list, and even with the extra 1/2 item at the end. Mobile usability, that will become a factor. Mark my words on that. You can write that one down. That'll come. The handwriting's on the wall. So that's the type of information I would give to them, and just say, look, this isn't because I want to do it. It isn't because I got a buddy at the vendor that I want to buy this product and I think it's cool. This is what Google is asking for. So let's put a plan in place. Let's get the right people to manage this, and let's execute it. That's all that has to be done.
And Michael has some other really great questions, which we'll get to in a couple minutes, but that was a wonderful question, Michael, so thank you so much for that.
It was, thank you.
Oh, Michael said print out what? I think he lost that last part that you said.
Just the webinar itself, the slides. You can show that. Just show them the nine and a half factors that affect your local ranking. I think those are the types of items that will help. That will help validate the need for this type of activity. Because it's one thing to just walk into somebody's office and say, hey, boss, we need to do this. But if you walk in with a plan and say, look, this is who should do this is how we should do this, and this is why we should do it, that makes a different case for the argument.
I agree. All right. Well, good luck with that, Michael. All right. Next question. Are you ready for the next one, Eric?
Sure am.
Okay. This might be a little tricky. This one comes from James. James says, what is the best practice for multiple listings at one rooftop with multiple stores? So for instance, same address for the RV store, the Ford store, and the body shop, etc. Can I create one for each, or is that bad due to them having the same physical address?
Yeah, that makes for, it honestly just does make for a sticky situation. But the best way to go about it is to just start off making 3 separate locations. But let me ask you, if this is the scenario, if you have one website with all of these different entities under the website, the most important thing that you can do is to make sure that you have one individual page with their location on separate pages for each of them. Even though they're going to be the same location, the same address, make sure if you have a body shop, if you have an RV shop, if you have the regular car dealers, make sure you have those entities with that specific business. And hopefully each one of those entities has their own separate local phone number as well. And that will help start to give the proper signal to Google and to the directories as to make sure that they're understanding these are in fact 3 separate entities.
Okay, he wrote back in, and he didn't pose a question. It just says multiple websites. So, James, I don't know if that means if you want me to just ask, what if we have multiple websites, or if you, in fact, have different URLs for each one of those different businesses.
Yeah, that's fine. And again, I'm assuming he's meaning that all 3 websites, or multiple websites, all have the same address, too. Yeah, unfortunately, it does create a little bit of a sticky situation because you've got 3 different entities all claiming one specific address. But the way to do this, again, starting off with, luckily you do have in this scenario 3 separate websites, 3 separate web entities that will have the ability to link out or to link back in rather to these, from these directories for the entity and the address and the local phone number. And then you just start building out the directories for that brand and that entity at that address, and that will help. That will help at least start to create the differentiator that's needed. And again, granted, it is difficult, and you might have some issues with some duplicate listings coming up. But again, it's just a matter of being able to manage it through these platforms that I mentioned. But at least you're on the right path with having 3 separate websites as well. That will at least get you on the right path.
Yeah, James also wrote back and he says, I just want suite 1, 2, and 3 to make it easy. Thanks. I've been struggling with this for years. James, best of luck, my friend. Best of luck. All right, let's go to this next question from David. Ooh, he's putting you on the spot, Eric. Remember when you said this is being recorded and I'm telling you what I think about links? So David wrote in, so Eric isn't saying that links no longer matter, but that you can benefit better by other means. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And it sounds like that's the end of his statement. Okay. Thanks so much, David. All right, another question to you from Michael. He says, how does one easily update their reviews on their smartphone? Is there an application needed? And I know you just showed us that link for that brand new thing that came out where you can do that on your smartphone, right?
Yes, there is a, let me go back here real quick. I've got the link right in here on this page. Read and respond to your reviews. If you go to Google Your Business, it's on their blog, and again, that link will take you right to it. But that will now give you the ability to respond and be notified and read, respond, and review. Obviously, but that's a great way to do it. You should, especially while you're at work, and you've got somebody that that doesn't mind being connected with that, to get a review that comes in at night, to be able to get a real-time review response with that. That just makes for a better experience. Especially if it's a negative review too.
Yeah, I totally, absolutely. Michael had another question. He says, with regards to content creation, who would you recommend?
Oh, geez. I wasn't prepared for that. Let's see. Who would I recommend? There's a lot of good people out there that I would recommend. I've done work in the past with Gary May. He's got a nice content creation team. Yago has a great great team. Again, I would explore with your website vendors. There's a lot of different programs that are being pushed out. I would make sure you do your due diligence though, and you really work with them and make sure you get what you're paying for. Again, I'm just a small shop. It's just myself. I got a couple guys. I got my partner Jeff Kreider. We manage the strategy. We just do. We manage the the high level stuff. We manage the on-page activities, and we do the local stuff. But we don't create content. That's a difficult thing to scale. So you need to make sure you're really working with somebody that can give you what you're paying for. It's quality. It's unique. It has to be unique. You can't. Don't. Make sure you're not renting any content that you have to give back if you stop paying. There's a lot of programs out there that I've heard like that. But I think it's just, it's much more than just creating a blog post these days. You need to make sure that this content is hitting the user-specific segments and the user intent. Obviously vehicle reviews, vehicle comparison creation. What's another one? The guys over at Moto Fuse, Kendall and Joey Little, those guys have a great platform going. Again, I just do your homework, guys, and just find somebody that is going to create good, solid, consistent, unique content.
I love it. Great advice. And Eric, if you wouldn't mind going back to that, that slide with that cute little headshot of yours. We want to make sure that the audience has unfettered access to the information that's going to get them in touch with you, because seriously, we're going to get through these questions, but if you want a very straightforward and honest answer from one of the best in the biz, and he is seriously super sweet guy too, please don't hesitate to contact him. He is wonderful, and all of Eric's information is up there for you. Okay, let's get to this next question from Jeff. Jeff says, in your opinion, are the extra listings that Yext offers over Moz worth the extra spend, $84 versus $499? Totally a judgment call, Eric.
Yeah, it's a great question. That's honestly, that's one of the reasons why I tend to lean towards Moz, because again, I when I'm recommending these services to a client, obviously I don't resell anything, I don't mark it up. I just tell the client, hey, you got to go buy this and you got to give me access to your account, that type of thing. I want them obviously to get something that is both cost effective and productive as well. But I think it also has to do with the size of the organization. If you're under 25 rooftops and below, you can get by with using something like Moz and still have it be very, very cost effective. But I think if you did an initial benchmarking of what your activities were, most people don't even have half of the major ones that or at least they're not cleaned up properly just within the 15 primary that Moz is going to give you access to. So I think that's a good starting point.
Okay, great question, Jeff. And let's get through these last handful of questions. David had another question about Yext as well. It's really rumor, so we're asking, is it true that with Yext, if you cancel your account, all your stuff goes back to the way it was before you started, leaving you in the same boat that you were in when you began? Is that just rumor?
No, that is true. If you're, again, it is if you're doing the bulk upload or directly through them. But again, the way that you have to look at it like this. If you're going to sign up for something like this, It's kind of like, think of it as like website hosting. You always need to host your website. You're always going to need a platform for this. There is a way, though, and I could talk offline with somebody if they really wanted to, get into it deeper. But there is a way that you can still use a program like this and not use their bulk uploader and still go manual, but yet use that to manage the resources. And obviously, so that way, if you just wanted to get started with them and then cancel, that way it doesn't revert back. But yes, it is true. If you did everything through the bulk uploader directly, and then you turn it off, it will, in fact, unfortunately, down the road, revert back to its original form. And that's just an unfortunate fallout of the the current API landscape that is there. That may change, who knows, but that's the way it is right now.
Good to know. All right, thank you so much for that. All right, James and Sabrina both kind of have similar questions. When you were talking about the page titles, James wrote, our website provider puts other cities in our page titles. Thoughts? Sabrina says, can you add multiple cities in the title tag? So what's the scoop? You gave the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania example, but you put around areas?
Yeah, the simple answer is yes, you can add whatever you want in there. Technically, I think that it allows for up to 1,000 characters, but as you all know, if you remember from my last webinar with you, the last one we did, that was actually one of the trivia questions that we did. You're only technically allowed 60 characters, and if you want to get extra technical, it's 512 pixels. That's the space that Google will actually display. But now, the example that I showed in this webinar, if the title that you put on there is not relevant to the content of the page, so if you're just throwing up extra surrounding cities, thinking you're going to get some juice from that, and you're going to show up in an organic result within that, within those results organically, it's a high likely that it won't happen. And I'm not saying it's not definitely 100% it won't happen, but it can. And believe me, I've affected that. But again, that takes extra tactics just within the on-page stuff. And I don't want to try to game the system at all. I want to play by Google's rules, and that's why I recommended if you are going to try to add other cities, make a separate page that is relevant to that city. So if I was doing real simple, if I'm in Rochester and if I wanted to try to target Buffalo, it's an hour away, I would make a separate page that talked to the Buffalo shopper, and I would say, hey, you're in Buffalo, you're making comparisons, check us out, look at this is us versus the competitors. I would tell my story to the Buffalo, to the Buffalo market, in the hopes of trying to get that Buffalo page to be relevant for Buffalo searches. Because right now, Google is looking at your primary address, and if my primary address is Rochester, New York, they don't really care that for Buffalo searches. Google cares about that page showing up for relevant Rochester searches. So hopefully that makes sense.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the comments that are coming in. That was a great answer. Thank you so much. James, Sabrina, if you have a follow-up question, hey, hit me up because we're going to be closing out the show very shortly. Lisa has a problem. She says she has been unable to get N in their address, I'm guessing, changed to the word north in Google. Any suggestions?
Well, first do a quick audit with something like the free tool on moz.com/local. Do an audit of your address of your business with the correct zip code and see what comes up. And then start from there to see where you might have some inconsistencies with that. It might be coming from your Google pages. And you can go to the Google My Business. Maybe you can start there. And again, just check the consistency that you have within the listing on the website. Again, it does start there. Even deeper, you can go to the 4 data aggregators that I mentioned before. The Factual, the Newstar, those 4 that I mentioned before, and see what might be listed within there. And again, if you can't get it changed, it might be because it's not changed there.
Right, right.
All of those links are obviously included within the presentation.
Okay, and apparently in their website, Lisa wrote in, she said in their website address, it doesn't say N, it says north is spelled out in the URL. So that's why she's been wanting to change, you know.
The URL, unfortunately, doesn't have as much weighting anymore. The same name domain factor is less than it has been. So there are other factors contributing to that, and it could be whether it's on page of the website or off page with your local plus page for Google or some of the other directories. Because somewhere that's getting pushed out wrong. Somewhere it's nested somewhere wrong.
Right. She actually has a follow-up question too. She said, when adding local phone numbers to your website, should it also be in the header or should it appear elsewhere?
Your best off is just sticking it in the body of the page copy.
Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for the great questions. We really, really appreciate it. Okay, Cameron wrote in a question and says, does having a responsive website eliminate mobile usability issues?
It's not going to eliminate. It will give you a better probability of getting rid of most of those. I would still, you've probably got a leg up, a small advantage, because as we know, it's stated from Google's webmaster tools and and Google's own blog that they prefer responsive, because it does in fact provide the best possible user experience. But I would still use that mobile health tool that I shared, and I would still put your website through that, because you may have some other issues in there, like font sizes, and maybe some of the touch points might be they could be too close. So other elements like that could be considered part of the user experience. But I would say straight up, you're probably at a slight advantage because you're dealing with a responsive out of the gate.
Right. Okay, and your last question, I know it seems like it took forever to get through all those questions, and it did. Last question comes to you from Jeff. He says, follow-up question to what was asked earlier about the 2 brands at one location. Should I create a variation in the addresses? For example, put Suite A for one of the addresses and Suite B for another. Would that help?
Honestly, I think you might have stumped me on that one. I would probably lean towards giving it a different differentiator on that, but that's something I'm interested in checking. I honestly have never come across that in my travels, but I would love to investigate that further. If you want to email me directly so I have your information, I will dig up the answer for you this afternoon and send it back. But I might probably lean towards, just at first thought, getting that extra suite indicator in there for any type of possible signal, just to stay consistent with the 2 addresses.
Eric, and with that, I thank you so much for an absolutely brilliant webinar. I think you were astounding, and I'm sure the audience does too. And fantastic presentation. If you want to say anything else before I close out the show?
I'll say real quickly, I appreciate Dealer On having me on. I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen in, and I definitely appreciate all the questions. Those were fantastic questions today for 11. And again, I said one last statement. I made it last time too. Keep in mind, this is not the magic bullet. This is part of an entire process that includes your a very, very solid long-term lead showroom management process for lead handling. And obviously a very, very solid training program for that, and on top of that, a merchandising program. And you put all of those things together, and that's the operation of today. So this alone is not the magic bullet. Keep in mind.
Thank you so much. I want to let the audience know that when I got kicked out of the GoToWebinar earlier in the show, when I had those technical difficulties, it did not let me record again. So this webinar is not recorded, unfortunately. And I am heartbroken because I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So Eric, I'm going to have to ask you live in front of the people that are on here now, if you wouldn't mind at some point coming back and doing the same show again in the future, so that we can educate some more people and
absolutely. Things are changed again, so we've got more good stuff coming, so I'll be more than happy to come back. Sure.
Okay, good, thanks. But it was a spectacular webinar. And if you agreed with me, audience, I need your help. because we're going to be sending out a survey, unless GoToWebinar has other plans for us today, but we do have a survey, and I would love for you to tell us what you thought of today's presentation. Eric, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. We're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes, but we would love to know what you thought, your honest opinion about today's presentation. And I know you don't have to tell me that the technical difficulties were difficult, so you don't have to put that in there. I'm also very proud to announce that Dealer On's Executive Vice President and co-founder, Amir Azvani, will be presenting at the upcoming 10th Annual Automotive Digital Success Workshop on November 10th through the 12th in Lexington, Kentucky. And if you haven't been to one of these workshops, let me tell you, they're pretty awesome. Really, you're going to learn a lot of stuff. And if you are going, then please check out his wonderful speaking session on mastering the art and science of website conversion. And to find out more about this amazing conference, please visit kaneautomotive.com. Invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next webinar, and it is a doozy. Can I just tell you? Learn Elise Kephardt's entire internet sales process. The YouTube diva herself, she's going to be here. And I know what you're asking. Does Elise Kephardt have the strongest internet sales process in the auto industry? You know what? She just might. She has long been known for her amazing 30% close ratio on internet leads, and the incredible success of Elise Kephardt's entire internet sales process is well documented. She also dubs it the Elise Kephardt experience. So she's ready to share all of her secrets. That's next Thursday. She's going to finally teach what she calls her ultimate internet ninja sales process, which can deliver increased profits without spending more money on leads. In this unparalleled 1-hour presentation, attendees will learn from literally one of the best in the biz, how to leave a proper voicemail, how to send a video greeting, email confirmations, text guidelines, best practices, her full outbound phone call process, what she sends as VI packages in the mail, how to set the appointment and confirming the appointment, you name it. She's covering it all. And so if you want to learn Elise Kephardt's full front-to-back process of handling an internet lead, then this is a must-see webinar. Please only show up if you can handle this onslaught of awesomeness. And don't forget, Dealer On's weekly webinars are held every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We have some awesome webinar subjects planned to close out 2014. But if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, then please contact me directly. I love hearing from you. Email me at eliana@dealeron.com. And thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today. I hope to see you all on a future webinar in our continuing education series. Have yourselves a good one. Take care.